everybody. This is a very interesting tool. I seen this quite a while ago and I was debating on buying it. Why? Because I already have two OBD2 breakout boxes, so it really didn't make sense to me to go buy another one. But then I started to get into programming, and then I started to realize how useful this little tool could be. Is it going to be useful to 100%? We're gonna only time will tell. But so far, I enjoyed the tool. I already opened it up. I already tried it. I wanted to make sure everything worked before I actually showed it to everybody, because the last thing I want is a tool to come in, it'd be defective, and then you guys don't really get a video. So let's go ahead get into this. This came from China, obviously. We're gonna get inside and show you guys what this box contains. And then after that, I'm going to use this machine to program this PCM that I picked up at the junkyard. Why did I pick it up at the junkyard? It's really a no-brainer if you want to get into programming. If you're able to go to a scrapyard, pick up a PCM, test on the PCM, get used to familiar with your software that you're using for programming, it makes things a lot easier. If you're just getting into programming and you go out and try to program a car, you can either really mess up the car where it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to fix, or worst case scenario, you call somebody else to come fix the mess that you just made. But it really defeats the purpose of you going out to program the car in the first place. So, suggestion, pick up an old PCM at a junkyard. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work, you bring it back, you grab another one. Yeah, a 30-day warranty on the junkyard where I pick up my PCM, so I'm not too worried about that. So, the main box, which is this one, is what houses your GT100 Plus. Now, this is like I said, this is a pretty interesting tool, and I'll show you guys in a minute why it's an interesting tool. So typically, if you have an OBD2 breakout box, basically, this part right here is the only part that you have. Okay, so it'll give you your voltage of what the system voltage is, and you'll have your pins, your 16 pins, in order to do your breakout of from your DLC connector. Now, the more that it's going, the DLC connector is becoming more and more obsolete. Like, I'll give you an example on the newer version of Kia and Hyundai vehicles on the D-CAN. The pins 6 and 14 connect to your D-CAN, so you can't even test your CAN system from there. You actually have to find a module that's accessible, or you have to find a splice somewhere in order to get your CAN high and CAN low to test out your CAN system. So the breakout box is becoming obsolete. But that video is not for this. So on this one you have your OBD2 breakout box, which is right here. It shows your voltage, and it also shows the amperage of what your PCM might be drawing. So very useful information right here. On top of that, we have the main unit power button. We have a 12 volt 30. I'll give you guys a view of that. Hopefully everybody can see it. So here we have a 12 volt 30, and here we have a 12 volt 15. I'll show you the importance of these two buttons or switches in a second. Very important, those two buttons. So after that, we have the OBD2 plug that goes out to your car, and then we also have the ECU connector that connects to your ECU. So this is going to be like a secondary breakout box pinout if you want. So all the pins that are in here are connected internally to all of these. So your pin 16, your pins 4 and 5, and then individually onto your manufacturer specific connectors. You CAN high, CAN low. You'll have extra pins coming out so you can plug up to the ECU. Now, this unit also comes with its own power supply. It's a 12 volt 1 amp or 2 amp. I can't remember. I think it was a 2 amp. I'll give you the spec in 1 second when we take out the power supply, but it is 12 volts. Typically, you want to be a little bit higher than that. Whenever you're doing PCM programming, you should be roughly about the 13 volt mark, because some models of diagnostic software will not even let you do a programming unless you're at 13.5 volts. So a little tidbit of advice to the company, if they do watch this video, take up the voltage of the unit, keep the amperage the same, but just have a higher output voltage to make sure that the PCM, to make sure that you're able to program a wider range of PCMs. So where were we going with that? So yeah, so here is the breakout for the ECU. We have the car, we have the power supply, we have toggle switches. That is the unit. That is what the unit consists of. I'll get onto these two buttons in a minute, like I said. After that, we have this little box right here. This little box contains the power supply. And our voltage rating is 12 volts at 2 amps. So it's able to push out to a maximum of 2 amps, this little guy right here. Like I said, I don't know how clean the voltage is, but we'll go with what it says. Alright, after that, this is the, like I said, this is like an extension to what you see on here. Okay? Very, very simple to follow. Try to give you guys a view of this. Oh, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the brown ones say ground, GND. The red ones say 12 volt 30 and 12 volt 15. Try to give you guys that. Here we go. So, and a 12 volt 15. And then after all that, we have our blacks, which are our can high, our whites are our can low. The yellows correspond to the yellows that are onto the breakout box. Okay. After that, you also have other connectors that correspond to the other pins onto there. So we're not going to get into that right now, but that's just showing you guys that everything is labeled, everything is connected, and it is very good quality. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I was really expecting this to come in like just like little plastics like this all over the inside of the box, but they really took their time, and they did a really good job onto it. Actually, I was very, very surprised for the quality. So on top of that, sometimes when you are doing programming onto PCMs or keys or anything like that, sometimes you need to access a secondary module. Now that secondary module could be a BCM, it could be a cluster, it could be a central gateway, so wherever that gateway might be, it might be a radio, it could be anything. So what they did is that they sent you the main cable that hooks into this, and then they also send you additional wires so that you can take and you can splice. If everything in here is full, you can take it and you can splice extra connections coming from here. So they take and they send you extra wires with extra pins. And what you do basically is that you take these banana jacks, I should say, you take and you would stick them onto here, and then from there you would stick them onto here, and then you would take and you would extend even further your capabilities for programming. So after that, we have our OBD2 plug. Now this is basically like your basic breakout box. So you're going to have one that's going to be, this part connects to your unit, then you're going to have one that connects to the car, and one connects to your tool. And that's it. So that's what the unboxing of this unit actually is. Like I said, there's actually not very much to it, but it is a very, very handy tool if you want to get into programming, or if you want to do some bench programming, have people send you ECMs and PCMs so you can do everything at home. It could be really helpful. So yeah, so now we are going to get into these two buttons right here, and why it is very, very important. Alright, so we have our breakout wires, we have our OBD2 connector and for our, let's just say our J box, which is right here. What we're going to do from there is take our plug, we're going to plug in our plug into our socket. And from there, we can turn on our main power. Now, as you can see, it is pretty steady at 12 volts. Now, what ends up happening is that when you start to power up something, the voltage will actually drop to 1. I've seen it go down to 11.7 volts. So for me personally, like I said, if they could bring that up to about 13 or even 13 and a half volts, it would be great. Because just sitting here, I'll give you guys a view, plugged in like that, you can see that I am at a 11.9 volts. So it's a little low, but we'll deal with it. Okay? So let's see what we can do with a PCM, shall we? Because that's what I really wanted to show you guys. So I've programmed this PCM about 2-3 times today already, going back and forth, making sure that the tool worked properly. Now we're going to get into why these two toggles right here, your 12 V30 and your 12 V15, are very, very important. And very important on where you place them and how to read a wiring diagram properly. If you guys do not know how to read a wiring diagram, study on reading wiring diagrams before you even think of plugging this tool up to a PCM, because you can really mess yourself up and give yourself a world of headaches when if you don't understand how to hook it up. Okay, so know your wiring diagrams, number one, because without knowing your wiring diagrams, you're never going to be able to hook this tool up properly. Make sure that you connect to the proper pins at all times, because hooking one wire up to a part of the PCM can fry the PCM if that wire is not supposed to be there. Keep that in mind whenever you're doing work like this. But besides that, it's pretty simple. So it's just a word of caution. You guys don't have to take my word of caution if you don't want, but strongly suggest that you make sure that you know what you're doing before you even decide to do this. This is not for beginners. I'm just showing you guys this in order to show you guys another tool that if you guys want to buy and play with, well, go ahead and buy and play with. Like I said, if you're paying $33 for a PCM, a used one, there's no harm in you blowing this. Okay? You bring it back, and if it's within the 30 days, you could just bring it back and say, oh, it doesn't work. You understand? So there's no harm in going and picking up a used PCM to practice on. And I would highly suggest that you do that first. So, we got the PCM here. I'm going to take my Untitled J2534. We're going to move him all the way over here. I am going to plug him in. He's going to power up. He is already connected to my computer. So now what we're going to do is that I got the wiring diagram here. I remember where my pins are, most of them. Like I said, I did this a couple times today. So what we're going to do is that we are going to go through and we are going to physically connect these wires to this PCM. Now, as I said a while ago, these two toggle switches are very important, and that's what I'm going to get into right now. So on this this tool, you have a 12 volt 30 and 12 volt 15. Now it is very important to remember that the 12 volt 30 is your constant power source. So think of the 12 volt 30 as being connected to the battery at all times, hot at all times. Now the 12 volt 15 is what you use to act as an ignition switch, or a push button switch, push button ignition switch. And you're gonna see, especially when you get onto Ford PCMs or Mazda PCMs, or there's a couple of other manufacturers where you have to toggle your key or cycle your key a couple of times because it wants to look for voltages and everything. And if you don't cycle your key, you can't program it. So that's where this tool can come in handy when you're doing PCM programming. So keep that in mind. The 12 volt 30 is for your constant battery voltage, so 12 volts at all times, and your 12 volt 15 is your switch power, okay, so from your ignition switch. So basically now what we're going to do is that we have to connect all the wires onto here as we see onto this this pinout, okay. Now when you have a pinout or a wiring diagram that doesn't show you anything that is inside the computer, especially when you're going in for programming onto a bench, one of the first things that you gotta do is pull out the powertrain management wiring diagram. Okay, that's gonna give you all your powers and grounds for your PCM. The next thing you're gonna want to do is that you are gonna want to take and pull out the computer data lines. that lead up to your PCM. Now, when you're looking at the computer data lines, you want to go straight up to your PCM. I don't know how well this is going to show up for everybody, but you want to go straight up to your PCM, and you want to see how many wires are hooked into that PCM. Okay, and you want to make sure that if it's a K line, if it's an L line, if it's a manufacturer data line, CAN high, CAN low, if you have data connections onto that connector, if there's 8 of them, put all 8 wires, because you don't know what the scan tool or your JBox, which pins it is going to use in order to program that module. Very, very important. Okay, so, and this is from experience. So keep that in mind. If you see 3, 4, 5 communication lines coming off of it, use those 4 or 5 communication lines at the PCM at all times. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is that you're going to want to take and you're going to want to follow, if you're unfamiliar with your pinouts at your OBD2, you can take and you can always go on Google and look at OBD2 connectors, and it'll show you which pins correspond to CAN high, CAN low, K line, or whatever other type of communication that might be onto the DLC connector. Okay, so this one I have one manufacturer specific communication line, which is this brown wire which goes up to pin 13, and then I have a CAN high and a CAN low which are onto my pin 6 and 14. So those are the only communication lines that I need to hook up to this PCM in order to communicate with it properly. Okay, very, very important to note that. Now, after all that, we're going to get into connecting this. Now, like I said, you have to know your 12 volt and your 30 and your 12 volt 15. Now on this one there was one wire that was constant power on this module. You gotta get, if I'm not mistaken, it was pin 45 of this middle connector. That's another reason. I also took and I sliced the whole connector off. But this is actually going to be for a client. I diagnosed a water intrusion onto a Mazda Tribute onto a PCM. He ordered a PCM. I gotta go program it, but I also said that he needed connectors. But the garage that I did the job for didn't mention the connectors to him, so I grabbed these at the same time because I know I'm gonna end up needing them. So, where am I? There we go. Alright, so my powers and grounds for this PCM specifically are all into, oh, you guys can't even see, are all into this middle connector right here. So this one's actually pretty easy. It goes, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, I got 5 rows of pins, and each row has 11 or 12. Yeah, 11 on the top, 12, 11, 12, and then 4. So, and this is the picture that I'm going to be showing you guys right now on where I have to connect these wires. I'll put it up right now, and you guys will see how you guys can see that without having a connector with wiring colors, okay, that you can actually go in and see your pin numbers associated with the pin numbers that are onto a wiring diagram. So this isn't going to be for the advanced auto technician, but for the beginners, it could be real helpful to know that. So what we're going to do now is connect to, I'll get my CAN high and CAN low first. So my CAN high, I remember, was pin 11. My CAN low was pin 23. CAN high, oh, we need the white for CAN. Pin 11 and 23. Okay, those were my CAN high, CAN low. And then I also need pin 13, which is going to be one of these yellow ones. So all the yellow ones correspond to the yellow connectors onto your breakout box. Okay, so we're going to take pin terminal 13. Just gotta try find it first. Alright, found 13. And they are labeled OBD 13. So we're gonna take that. And now I have to take that one, and that one goes on pin 44 if I'm not mistaken. Pin 44 was this one. I'm not mistaken, 45 was all the way at the end. 45 is a power and is a 12 volt 30. 45 was a 12 volt power, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 45 is a 12 volt 30. So that's what we're going to pick on this one. We're going to pick a small 12 volt 30. 12 volt 30 on pin 45. 46 is not used, so we are good there. After that, we have grounds, which my grounds are on pins 49, 48, and 47. And the grounds are going to be your brown ones, okay? They do give you quite a bit of ground wires, and if not, they always give you extra ones that you can use. So, and 49, let's put that in, perfect. And now there's one other ground wire, which goes to pin 10. Yeah, that makes sense. So then one more ground wire for pin 10. Alright, so that is what that looks like. Alright, so those are my powers. All my powers? Did I put all my powers? No, I didn't. 12 volt 30. No, I'm missing 2 powers. Sorry. That was my fault. 35 and 36 are also powers, but those ones are your ignition powers. Perfect. Okay, so just make sure I got all that right. Yep, we are good with that. Perfect. So this is what the setup looks like so far. I'm gonna try to bring my laptop over for everybody. I could put on a screen recorder. I might just do that. Probably make it a little bit of a better video. But for right now, I think we'll just leave it like that actually. So now I'm going to be using the Mazda programming software. Now if you guys aren't familiar with it, the Mazda and the Ford J2534 programming software are pretty much the exact same. You have and then you also have the FDRS, which is more like 2017 and up. That's what you need the FDRS for Ford. Mazda has their own version also for 2017 and up. But we are going to be using the Mazda. So I want to try and get you guys a better view of that. So keep you guys on screen right there. Alright. So like I said, I already tried this one out earlier. The VIN that is into it is DZ88K. So we are not going to resume this session though, because what I want to show you guys is how to take and change your VIN into your system. If ever you're going to be changing your VIN, you gotta make sure that you know on if you have a PAT system or non-PATs. Non-PATs, you don't have to worry. With PATs, you're gonna have to reprogram the PAT system afterwards. So this app is to be used from 2018 MI vehicles. Usage with other manufacturers may lead to unintended results. So we are going to start a new session. Let's see if I can turn this for everybody a little bit more. There we go. So basically all I did was that I started a new session. You want to make sure that you have a good internet connection. As you see right here, it says make sure that your J2534 is plugged in. Make sure that you select the proper J2534. With this one you can use the all scanner if you guys are wondering. So as long as you have the all scanner hooked up, you can use it as a J2534 programming device. We're going to let this load up. No communication established with the PCM. Now the reason that there is no communication established with the PCM is because I have not turned on the ignition switch if you want. So what we are going to do right now is that in order to program or change the VIN, one of the easier ways is to just go through, keep the ignition switch off, okay, and then go ahead and keep on clicking the tick. Now if it says that it has no communication, it's going to ask you, read what it says right here. We're going to be clicking on no because we want to try and force the computer to wake up. So let's click on no. set the ignition switch to on. I don't know if you guys can read that from there. I'm just saying that I set it to on. I didn't. Same thing. Off, back to on, back to off, back to on. Okay, now it should come up and say the diagnostic tester is unable to communicate with the vehicle. You will be prompted to select the vehicle from the vehicle list. Perfect. So throughout all this process, you want to make sure that the scanner is, not the scanner, but your GoDiag box is off, or your key is in the off position. Okay, because we're going to manually select everything right now. So this is me pretending to take the PCM and switch it with a new PCM if you want. Okay, so we're going to click on the tick after we select all other. Now it's going to ask you for PCM part number or calibration number or tear tag number. So we're going to put two of those pieces of data. What we're going to put in is the PCM part number, and we're going to put in our tear tag number. I'll put a picture up on where you guys can locate that on the back of these PCMs. So our PCM part number, now my tear tag, and then I'm just going to press the enter or click on the tick, and if there's an error, it'll tell me that there's an error. So now it's going through. Saying please wait, and as you can tell, it identified the vehicle. Now this next part does take quite a while, okay, because right now my ignition switch is off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna click on yes, that is the proper vehicle. Okay, now like I said, this next part is gonna take a while, so I'm gonna turn the camera off and I'll bring you guys back when it's done. Alright, so that took about, I don't know, a good like 5 minutes or so. So this next part isn't really necessary, but what we're going to do is input a VIN. When I was at the scrapyard, I really was thinking about this video. So what I did is that I went on to another Mazda Tribute that was there that also had a 4-cylinder. And I took a picture of the VIN in order to input into this one so we can go ahead and program it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. We're just going to put in the last 8, and because the actual VIN will be entered in a little bit later. Those are the last, and we're just going to press onto the tick. Now it's going to go into the next one. Now it's going to say that the identification is complete at that time. Now what you're going to do from there is that you're going to come up over here into this area, and you're going to click onto the little toolbox. Okay, now what we're going to do from here is that we're going to go module programming, and we're going to go module reprogramming, because this is not a new module. If it is a new module, you go to programmable module installation. For a used module, go into module reprogramming. We're going to pick the PCM, and we're going to come down and we're going to click on our tick. Now, as you can see right here, it says that there's a software version update, which is perfect. Now at this point right here, what we're going to do is that we're going to take and we're going to turn on our 12 volts for the PCM, and we're going to turn on our ignition switch for the PCM. Now this, I'm going to have to try to get this in screen for everybody, because if not, it's you guys aren't going to really see what I am doing. So I'm going to have to try to get this GoDiag in shot, or as best as I can, to give you guys a view of what is going on. Alright, so over here on my switches, okay, the green one over here, like I said, that's going to be for your ignition. Alright, so what we're going to do at this point is that we're going to come over, since everything is on, and we're going to click on the yes button. Ensure the vehicle battery is in good condition and all accessories are turned off. We are bench programming, so we don't really have to worry about all that. Alright, so we're just going to click OK. It is recommended that we do a self-test. Why not? We're there. Like I said, this is why that you have to turn the switch on at this point. So now the self-test is going to go through, and you're going to see that there is going to be a lot of codes into the system. Why? Because the computer is looking for voltages from sensors, and it's not seeing it. So don't worry about the codes that are in the system. Wish I could show you guys that. I don't know if you guys see over here. I have 11.7 volts, and right now the computer is drawing 0.31 amps. So that is not very much. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here. We're going to scroll down all the way down to the bottom until we see the exit button, which is all the way down over here. We're going to click on that. And we're going to click on the tick. Now set the ignition switch to the off position. So as you can see, this is where this comes in handy. I'm going to try to keep this in view for everybody. Set to the off position and click on the tick. Please read the following information carefully. Do not start a reprogramming session with a low battery in the vehicle and or programming tool. The fuel pump and the engine cooling fans may run during the following procedure. We're not even plugged up to the vehicle, so don't worry about that. If you are programming a 6-liter diesel, the FICM relay must be removed before programming. So just click on the tick if you understand all that. Now this is where we are going to actually put in our VIN for this vehicle. Okay? So I'm going to put in the full VIN. So double check your VIN, make sure everything is good. So we have 4F2C Z02 Z08 KM 20517, which is the proper VIN. Now you're going to click on OK. Now it's going to ask you to validate your VIN one more time. We'll click on yes. Is the vehicle equipped with PATs? This one is, but we're not going to be programming the PATs onto this one because I just don't have all the tools for that. So what we're going to do is go and bring this guy back up now. Our ignition switch is right here. It's asking us to turn on our ignition switch. We're going to turn it on. And after the ignition switch is turned on, you will see that it will start our PCM reprogramming. Now just remember that the other VIN that was into the vehicle had digits into it that were not there. This could take up to 15 minutes in order to complete, so what I'm going to do is pause you guys here. Alright, we are back. Now what it's asking me to do is just take this, set this guy to the off, the ignition switch to the off position, click on the tick. Module programming in process. Takes roughly about 15 seconds. We'll leave that go through. Set the ignition switch to on. Alright. Now we will take and push our button, our tick again. And now it's going to say that we have other information that has to be put into the PCM. So this information right here that you have to enter is stuff that you can get from the Motorcraft website if you're unsure of your axle gear ratio, tire sizes, and everything like that. It's just small things that they're going to ask you to put in. Okay. Typically for this one, we're at 4.21 to 4.25. So I'm just going to put in any single number because, like I said, this is not going into a car. So we're going to pick 4.24 for my axle ratio. After that, speed control not present. Tire size, we could put in our tire size. Okay, we can take 215. Just going to take whatever. 65. And then we're going to put 15. And then we have to calculate. And that's going to be a little bit high. So, 16, nice. I don't know why I pressed that, but anyway. So let's see if it is within its parameters. And tire size not within specification. So we're going to change that to a 17. And we'll do that again. And now within specification. And then it's just going to give me sizes that I could pick. Other sizes if you want to pick the right one. 215, 70, 16. 749, 235, 70, 16. We'll take that one. Now what it's going to ask me to do is take and just switch it to the off position. So that's what I'm going to do with the unit again. Like I said, you just switch it back to the off. We're going to press this. Please read carefully. Now it's going to go ahead and it's going to continue a programming procedure. It's basically the same information that we had a while ago. Set the ignition switch to on. After the switch is turned on, we'll see a little tick, or it'll start doing the programming right away. And right now it's doing my PCM reprogramming. So this is pretty much the exact same thing that happened a while ago. I'm going to take and pause you guys, and I'll bring you guys back once this line is full. Alright, it's almost done downloading. I'm reprogramming the PCM. Now we're going to just take and set it into the off position again. Module programming in process. It's going to take 15 seconds. Or up to 15 seconds, I should say. It really depends on your computer. Now we're going to set the ignition switch back to on. Set the ignition switch to off. Calibration has been loaded and checked. So now we're just going to press the tick one more time. If you have a 6 liter, reinstall the FICM relay. And this is a program that you could take and print out and give to your client, or keep it into a document for you so you know what car it is and what calibration went into it. So now we're just going to press the tick. Operation successful, programming complete. Set the ignition switch back to on. We're going to press it one more time. It's going to scan for codes. If this was on the vehicle, we clear all the codes, but we can't clear anything on this one. Now we're just going to set the ignition back to the off position. We're going to press our tick again. And as you can tell, we are done with the programming. Now I'm going to turn my ignition switch back on. We're going to come over to vehicle. And as you can see, now my VIN has changed to the proper VIN. Well, not the proper VIN, but to the VIN that I programmed into it. So now from there, if you guys had the PATs and you guys needed to do that, you would come over to the toolbox again. You guys would come down to body, if I'm not mistaken, security, PATs functions, and then we would click on to the PATs. It gives you the control function location, which is into the instrument cluster. Maximum number of keys is 8. Minimum keywords required for after ignition erase. Key erase is 2. Requires parameter reset after installation of new PCM or PATS module. Yes. And graphics key. So then you would take and you would have to gain access to the PATS module. But this, we don't have access to the PATS module because the control function location is into the instrument cluster on this one. So that could only be done onto the vehicle, or if you had the instrument cluster on hand, you could perform it, but then you need also a key reader to excite the immobilizer function inside of the key in order for it to transmit data down the information bus. So that is it for this video. Kind of lengthy, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really wanted to show you guys the GoDiag. I've been dying to show you guys the GoDiag for the past week, but I had some other projects on the go. So hope you guys enjoyed this one, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.